You can't fight it. It's thunder and lightning. You won't break me. You won't break me.
Welcome to Great Britain and the beautiful Welsh city of Cardiff and today's Sky Ocean Rescue in Port Race. This is the first time the Volvo Ocean Race has visited Wales's capital city and a welcome back to the UK after a 12-year absence. Since the first start from Portsmouth in 1973, the race has graced British shores for 10 of the 13 editions. This very much a homecoming. The race village has been packed since the dramatic arrival of the boats last week. The record-breaking run from Axo Nobel, the close finish, the resurgence of Team Brunel, and the tightening up of the leaderboard all have contributed to making the arrivals headline news. Boy, do we have a boat race on our hands. The news that you really need to know is the top three teams, Dongfeng, Mapfre and Team Brunel, all have 3 points separating them. The question is, can Dongfeng race team hold their nerve? Can Mapfre recreate their amazing performance and retake the leaderboard? And can Team Brunel continue their rise and take the overall win? Let's look at the transatlantic double points leg and how the boats got here from Newport, Rhode Island. What a scene, what a perfect start from all 7 boats.
It's going to be a long 24 hours till we get past the PSS here. But then we actually sailed pretty well through the night. Dongfeng went quite well in those conditions and pulled away from us a bit. And we managed to pull away from the other guys.
Transatlantic's a big one for us. You know, we've had such a roller coaster of a Volvo Ocean Race so far. It's been pretty enjoyable at times, and well, bloody difficult at times, to be honest.
It's a massive split 24 hours into this leg.
Taking the southerly route. The good news is 3 other boats are with us, and the 2 red boats took a northerly route, so ideal scenario for us.
We are expecting a jibe for the last 2 days, but the wind hasn't shifted yet, so that's good. More wind, we're going faster than we expected. Very, very wet.
It's pretty cool to be the fastest one in the race. It will be hard to win the race overall, but at least I won't be the slowest, hopefully.
We're at lunchtime, it's like going to hit a brick wall. We're going to go from 30 knots to nothing. And what we want to do is try and be clever so that we can catch up some of the mileage that we've lost to the others.
We're not in great shape, but I think a podium's still very achievable, but we've just got to keep working hard, and again, probably need a little bit of luck in this ridge.
What are you thinking right now? Let's go outside.
It's beautiful, it's nice and warm, slight slamming motion every now and then. Hey, the boat's going fast, so that's what we live like.
We're still a lot to go, and hopefully we can fix this leg a little bit, but for sure nothing is going to be decided in Cardiff. It's going to be a big fight all the way to the Hague, and we have to keep pushing all the way to the finish.
We've seen tricky finishes in the past.
And Newport didn't go our way. Hopefully in Cardiff it will, so we never give up.
What we have here is AXO. Every now and then they appear back out of the fog.
Wind is going to be up and down, so there's going to be a lot more of that to come, and a tactical battle ahead for Jules especially.
I feel like someone's watching me.
After that dramatic double points transatlantic leg, Turn the Tide on Plastic are 7th with 26 points, Sun Hunkai Scallywag 6th with 29, Vestas 11th Hour Racing with 36, in 4th it's Team Axo Nobel with 48, and then catapulting up the leaderboard, Team Brunel with 57, just 2 points ahead. In 2nd is Mapfre on 59, and 1 single point at the top of the leaderboard, Dongfeng Race Team, currently with 60 points, holding the overall lead. The import race standings crucial should there be a tiebreak in the overall scores at the end of the race, show Mapfre with a dominant position, leading with 50 points. 2nd, Dongfeng Race Team with 42, and 3rd, Team Brunel with 36, with just 1 point separating them from 4th place, Axo Nobel. We're here for the Sky Ocean Rescue Import Race. I'm joined by my co-commentator Sally Barkow and the current trophy holder, winner of the last Volvo Ocean Race, Ian Walker, for their wonderful insights. Ian, we've got an incredibly close finish ahead of us with 3 boats never seen before. What do you think it'll take for them to close it out?
So I don't think any of us, really envisaged this happening. Halfway through the race, it looked like Dongfeng and Mapfre were going to run away with it. But credit to Brunel, they've dragged it back, and they've certainly got momentum on their side.
Right, Brunel's meteoric rise up the leaderboard has been spectacular.
It has been a fundamental shift. I remember talking to Volvo Ocean Race as the boats left Auckland, and I was talking about how uncompetitive Brunel were. And now all of a sudden we're talking about them possibly winning the race. So whatever they've done, they've made a huge change on board, whether it's in the sails, the setup, the way they're trimming the sails of the boat, I don't know, but credit to them for making, I'm sure, some fairly major changes.
Sally, you sailed on Brunel. What do you think has been the change in dynamic?
When they got ashore in Auckland, there was a big communication adjustment they made. They all started working a lot together. All of a sudden they have a solid team. They have the same team now for the last 3 legs, which they haven't had at the beginning of the race. And I think they have some amazing sailors on the boat.
Mapfre have been leading for the majority of the race. They set the early pace. He's now under pressure. What's going on with him in his head?
Well, you could argue they're quite fortunate, because it could have been a lot worse if they hadn't turned the race around into Newport. That could have been a 5th and not a 1st, and then they would have been pretty much out of it. So both them and Dongfeng, let's be clear, for the last 30,000 miles they've been in match racing each other rather than sailing the fleet, and I think they maybe underestimated the charge of Brunel, and they're going to have to pay attention to the whole fleet.
Now, Sally, you know Charles Caudrelier, the skipper of Dongfeng. He's an intensely competitive character. We see him walking around the dock. What are your thoughts about his current mood?
I think, he's intense. You see him around the docks and how he's handling the team. They're pushing super hard, and one thing I see in their team is consistency. I can just see them winning this race with another 2nd place.
Bauer Becking is on his 8th Volvo Ocean Race campaign. You retired once you'd won it. Is this Bauer's chance to close it out?
That was the first thing I said when we won the race, was thank God I don't have to do that again. Bauer must be just praying that he wins this race. Brunel, I just don't think we know who they are, because it's Jekyll and Hyde. They were so poor at the start of the race, and now they've been so strong, but largely in the offshore sections. My feeling is Dongfeng have been consistently the fastest, but have made some poor errors. Mapfre, I just don't know what to make. One thing they have got is real depth in the sailing team, and on the longer legs, I think that's really paid for them, but will these legs be long enough for that to kick in?
Sally, do you think that that has introduced a bit of fatigue? Are they more tired?
If you look at the trend, you would say that Mapfre are, trending down, and yeah, they got lucky into Newport to kind of hold on to what they have. But I still have something inside of me says Mapfre are strong as they were in the start, and they're going to push through this.
And in the last race, we had a tiebreaker on the final import race that made quite a significant impact in the overall scores. Do you think there's any chance we're going to see that at the end of this race? It'd be amazing.
Well, I think there's every chance, right? With the points so close, there's absolutely every chance. And who's to say that the extra bonus point for the elapsed time or the import race series won't actually decide the race? So I don't think anybody wants it to be decided on the import race, but everyone's known the rules. And it's Mapfre who've had the hammer down and who've been doing so well in that series. Maybe that could even seal it for them.
And Sally, who do you think's in the ascendancy right now? Where's your feelings?
Well, I think Brunel's in the ascendancy. They're actually really ticking away at each leg and showing their consistency at the top. But I still have this feeling that Mapfre is going to pull through at the end and put the hammer down and show us all what they really came here for.
Okay, in the end, come on, mate, tell us who's going to win.
And I'll go Dongfeng.
There we go. All right. Well, thanks very much to my co-commentator, Sally Barkow, and the current holder of the Volvo Ocean Race trophy, Ian Walker. Let's hope for a great Sky Ocean Rescue import race today in Cardiff. Well, the crowds were out in force from all over the UK, and the Cardiff stopover has pulled out all the stops. Sky Ocean Rescue have been doing amazing work sharing their corporate and public mission to pass on plastic. Kids and adults are all around the village learning and changing, all with the background of exciting racing and colourful personalities. The atmosphere was fantastic, with everyone looking forward to a great day of boating action. Let's take a look at the racecourse for today's Sky Ocean Rescue import race. The boats start going upwind to a gate mark, it's downwind to the leeward marks, and 3 times around off the Cardiff docks. 20 years of highly detailed climatological data from the global Vestas Climate Library have been downscaled to show us where the wind shadows are around the racecourse. Here we can see 050 northeasterly, very little wind shadow from the land, should be a steady breeze and a good racecourse. Brilliant, there we can see the Sky Ocean Rescue start line. This, the Sky Ocean Rescue import race. All the boats to the left, a little bit away from the line. But let's go directly down to the water where we've got Nick Bice and Richard Mason. Tell us about conditions and the tide. What's going on?
It's they've definitely turned it on here out of Cardiff today. And apart from a little bit of mist around, it's just beautiful conditions. Probably 10 knots, 9 or 10 knots. It's been dying a little bit since we got out here, but as the tide slackens off, I think we've got another 50 minutes. I think it'll die a little bit more, but then we're going to have a fantastic race on our hands.
Okay, wonderful. And we've got up in the helicopter the current trophy holder for the Volvo Ocean Race, Ian Walker.
Well, I think I've definitely got the best seat in the house up here. It looks a fairly steady wind, pretty even across the course. I think the start's going to be absolutely crucial. It doesn't look like a kind of race that's going to turn inside out. We're well set, maybe, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 knots of wind.
Okay, we got 14 or so knots of breeze and a steady wind direction. Sally, your thoughts quickly.
Thoughts are that it's just going to be a simple race course. The minimal maneuvers might win this one today.
Yeah, 3 laps around, and now we're going down towards the race committee boat. They're on the right-hand side. You can see them just there to the windward end on board with Dongfeng race team. Charles Caudrelier just timing for the start. You can't be over the line. If you're over the line, you have to recross, and with 28 seconds to go, everyone jockeying for position. Mapfre and Dongfeng, again, very close to each other. Mapfre at the windward end, Dongfeng just trying to get a little space and turn the tide on plastic. Have got to put the pedal down with 17 seconds to go. A real bunch up in the middle of the fleet. Sung Hun Kai, Scallywag all on the left-hand side. They're going to have to do something. So, 8 seconds to go. Here we go. The first time in Wales for the Sky Ocean Rescue import race, and it's all on. Every tack, every jibe needs to be flawless, and every point counts. There we go, the gun. Vestas getting the best of it, and Mapfre first attack away immediately. This battle crucial for import points and looking for a psychological advantage for the final sprint. Mapfre have tacked immediately. They clearly want the right-hand side. I think we may have got an over the line. Vestas looked very close. Yeah, look, Vestas 11th Hour Racing with just a nudge over the line, so they have to recross. We were talking about that moments ago. They've got to go all the way back around the pin end of the line. Now need to clear the line. The X flag will come down on the race committee boat, but in the meantime, the rest of the boats all legging it out upwind. Axo Nobel in a nice position on the left-hand side, squeezing their Dutch compatriots Brunel just to windward of them Dongfeng. On the right-hand side, we can see them right here. Pablo Arate, helmsman for Mapfre for all the import series. They got a decent bit of speed, and there is the recross of the line from Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Not how they would have wanted to start this import race, Sally.
Yeah, that is, you know, they couldn't have been over by that much, and now they have a huge mountain to climb to get back even into just this, into the group.
And what was the problem there? They got squeezed a bit. There were other boats around.
They got squeezed, so there was, they didn't have enough room to leeward, basically, so they had to accelerate the boat, and they didn't have enough room to go down below the line. They had Brunel just below them, and they just had to poke their nose over the line.
Okay, Richard Mason and Nick Bice down on the water. Give us your perspective of that start.
Looked very busy on the start line there. Vestas just over, and Scallywag coming in on port, sort of digging their way through, and we've got a nice split in the fleet now. Looking pretty nice out on the right. We're on the right-hand side of the racetrack, and looks like they're about to nose into a bit of pressure, so I'd say Mapfre looking powerful at the moment.
Okay, up to the helicopter, we've got Ian Walker. You've got a bird's eye view, literally. Which side do you like, left or right?
I'm not used to seeing it from this angle, Andy, but certainly that start, there was quite a lot of port bias, so the guys down at the pin end really starting with a little bit of advantage. Mapfre really close to the start line, Vestas clearly over, and Dongfeng have been going pretty quick. They didn't have the great start, but they're controlling the pack on the left. Scallywag are doing a pretty nice job of getting up bow to bow with Mapfre, so I'm not sure it's going to play left or right. I think keep the tacks down, as Sally said, and it's going to be tight at the top, I guess.
Okay, Sally, talk to us about Ian there talking about port bias on the line. Crucial.
Port bias on the line, so they obviously have to set the line at some angle to the wind. Generally, they set it at 90 degrees to the course, but the wind can shift back and forth. So whether it was set a little bit off skew to the course or a little bit off skew to the wind, it might be why Mapfre tacked away so early to get on the lifted tack, which would have been the port tack, right away to take that advantage.
So you think there may have been a little left-hand wind shift, and that puts the port end favoured?
Possibly, that could be, but you know, then in an ideal world, if you're Mapfre, you want to start near the pin and tack over, but that's also a pretty difficult move. And the fact that the guys on the left didn't do that maybe it wasn't that strong of a left shift, and it was just the bias on the line towards the gates makes it that they sailed up the track. They got that free mileage up the track before they even started the race.
Okay, well, we saw from the tracker there that the left-hand side was just gaining, but it looked to me like there was a slight right-hand shift, and maybe it's gone a little bit light on the left-hand side there, Sally.
Yeah, it sure does look like it. I don't know, the boats just seem a little bit less powered up over there, maybe because they're sailing so close to each other. You know, Scallywag and Mapfre have had their own clear air and kind of really strong lane this whole time, but, you know, they look a lot more powered up, a lot more waves, you know, passing the bow.
Yeah, Scallywag look like they're in a nice bit of breeze, and maybe it's just gone a little light on the left-hand side. Ian Walker in the helicopter, what's the latest?
Well, we're out on the right-hand side, just in front of Mapfre, and it kind of looks a bit choppier out here. Maybe as if there's either the tide started to turn on the right, I'm not sure, but they look pretty even left and right from where I am.
Okay, we're going to come back to Ian Walker, and we've got our boys Nick Bice and Richard Mason down on the water, and well, it does look like there's been a big shift. They're all now a big split in the fleet. They're all now on port tack. Nick Bice down on the water. Which side do you favour? Who's looking good?
Yeah, I like the look of Mapfre at the moment. Just as Ian said, it's a little bit choppier over here, so we're probably seeing a bit more tidal influence. And it's no coincidence that Mapfre had a pretty clear plan on what they wanted to do, and I think that was to get out into the tide and get around that top mark first.
And Nick, from our perspective, looks like actually Sun Hunkai Scallywag have done a very nice job of staying in. just going to pictures of the virtual eye, and the left tiny bit ahead, but it's extremely close as they come towards the ley line. Are Sun Hun Kai Scallywag going to be ahead of Matt Frey?
No, I think it'll be a pretty clear port starboard, probably bow and bow, maybe Matt Frey just a touch ahead. So Matt Frey, of course, has a starboard advantage, and they're just setting up to tack now. So we'll give you the lowdown on that in about 20 seconds.
Okay, Sally, Matt Frey are looking to tack, and that will mean they're on starboard. Talk to us about what we're going to see next.
I would imagine if they're quite close to the ley line here, so I'd imagine we'd see Scallywag, you know, tack right with them if they think they can also make the ley line. If Matt Frey make it perfectly, Scallywag actually have a very tough decision. Do they duck and go beyond them, or do they put a lee bow tack in here just in front of Matt Frey and hope to not get rolled? To me, it looks like they're a little bit more ahead than we thought, and they're going to put a lee bow tack in.
Well, this looks very close. It looks like Matt Frey went for the duck. I don't think they were close enough there. And to my eye, it did look like Sun Hun Kai Scallywag with just a nudge ahead. And that is what has happened. And Matt Frey went for the duck. I don't think there was any sort of flag on the play. We'll check with the umpires. Yes, there's a red flag on the play. I think Matt Frey probably just trying it there, right?
Yeah, I mean, they looked, Scallywag looked well clear ahead on that. And that actually looked like Matt Frey were trying to duck below, yeah, green flag, as we say. So it looks like they were trying to wave him across so that they didn't tack right in front, putting the bow down, and then Scallywag read that, tack right in front, and they have a chance to lead around the top mark.
Good on David Witt. Well done, well sailed. And he had a nice few bits in the press conference when they were asked who's the most competitive sailor out there, and David Witt said he was definitely Xavi Fernandez, because he said when he's down at the pub, Xavi is on his bicycle doing laps around Wales. Okay, up to the helicopter. Ian Walker, what's going to happen when these two sets come together, those on starboard and the boats from the left who are on port and have to give way?
Yeah, it's pretty tight as we thought. No problem at all with that tack. The starboard tackers, that's Scallywag and Matt Frey. The question is, are they going to be far enough forward? I'm thinking right now Dong Fong are going to cross them. Scallywag look like they're maybe just below the ley line, so perhaps got a couple of tacks to do as well.
Yeah, Virtual Eye showing them about 8 or 10 boat lengths below the ley line, and all the boats, we've got about a minute and a half until the boats converge. So this is going to be very interesting times. The boats on the right are going to have to do another couple of tacks up towards that top mark, and the boats on the left, Axo Nobel, Dong Fong and Team Brunel. Team Brunel just a little bit behind, and looks very even as they come back here. But as Ian says, just a nudge ahead for Dong Fong Race Team. Okay, Nick Bice, so what do you say?
Oh yeah, we've just seen Scallywag bounce Matt Frey off back to the right. So the big question will be between Dong Fong and Scallywag, and I agree with Ian. It looks a little bit stronger in the left with with Dong Fong. So we'll expect to see Dong Fong leading around the top mark, I would say.
Yeah, this maybe will be an opportunity. What's the knock-on effect here, Sally, for Brunel and Axo Nobel just to windward? Tell us what you see.
Yep, looks like they're all hoisting their A3s, so they're all quite occupied on that, but they have to avoid Scallywag coming across. Chances are that, you know, Dong Fong and, Matt Frey and Axo Nobel can lay the gates, and Scallywag has one more tack in. So Scallywag actually has to think about where they're going to position the boat. If they're behind these, they want to tack early, and if they're ahead, then they can tack in front of them.
And this may be just that pin end advantage by a boat length or two that has allowed these left-hand boats just to cross, not by much at all, but enough to get them around. And look, Dong Fong Race Team, maybe the breeze has gone back slightly to the right because Sun Hun Kai Scallywag are right back in this. Brunel having to duck under. They are coming along on port, and now the next thing, Axo Nobel and Dong Fong Race Team. Axo Nobel are going for the cross, and this may be good for them. They'll be able to bear away around this right-hand mark. Eyes on it here. Can Dong Fong force Axo Nobel to tack? Nikolai Sersted helming. They're going to tack around the top mark. It looks like Axo Nobel are just going to tack on top of Dong Fong Race Team in a very nice position now for Bauer Becking. Let's listen in. Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, are they going to have to luff for this mark, and Dong Fong are going to have to avoid them? That's going to be bad for the Chinese team, and this is legal as long as they don't go beyond head to wind. David Witt does a nice job of that. Very good. Leading around the top mark, Team Axo Nobel. In second, Dongfeng Race Team. Third, Team Brunel. In fourth, it's Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, just stalling out a little bit as they got slow there. That'll give the spectators something to think about. In fifth, it's Di Kafari, Turn the Tide on Plastic. In sixth, it's Mapfre. And in seventh, having recrossed the line, Festus, 11th Hour Racing here in Cardiff for the Sky Ocean Rescue Import Race. Great sailing, tight battles. 3 rounds, 1.2 miles, windward leeward. Mapfre have got to do their usual scene of grinding away at their competition and getting back into this race. This would not be good for them in the overall import race standings, and the closeness of the overall race points means that these import races are crucial, and a last place or a back of the fleet for Mapfre would really change the standings again, with another 2 import races to go before the finish.
Yeah, and I think what we saw there is they just got bounced once. You know, they called a really good ley line because Scallywag, who tacked right in front of them, made the mark, and they just got bounced 2 more tacks out to the right and put them in the back of the fleet. But I think what we're going to see here in the next bit of this race is a lot of more bouncing around. Everybody's going to stay really close together.
Okay, up in the helicopter with that perfect view. Ian Walker, what do you say about Team Brunel, who managed to get around pretty neatly out of that top mark?
Yeah, Team Brunel, they're right beneath us, and I think it's a nice position to be in because you've got your own clear air, you've got clear water. Generally, groups of boats go slower, and particularly when they get to the point where they got a jibe, the other boats could affect each other. Brunel are nice and clear here, so they could well see some nice gains. Just thinking back to that first beat, not really a great beat by Mapfre. They needed to go beyond the ley line to let Scallywag tack under them, or they had to come back early. They really should have done better than what they did, but they're doing a nice job now of soaking inside, turn the tide, so they should get that place back.
And Ian, when you say groups of boats go slower, what's the reason for that?
Well, because your course is affected by the other boats, and you don't want to sail too high in case they stop you jibing. You've got to, when you jibe, you've got to sail under their sails, which slows down the wind and makes you go slower. So when you're on your own, you can just sail the fastest angle, concentrate on letting the boat go fast and not worrying about everyone else.
Okay, and we can see that right now with Mapfre. They're just having to sail a little bit lower of their normal angle, and the boats that have just streaked out a little bit, Akzo Nobel and Dongfeng Race Team, they look like they've got a very nice puff of breeze. Is there better breeze over the other side of the racecourse where Akzo Nobel are, Ian Walker?
I've got breeze just above the group of 5, and I've got some breeze right in front of Brunel and Vestas. So I just think in the next minute or 2, you should see Vestas and Brunel picking up nicely.
Okay, and down on the water, Richard Mason, what have you got to say about this? Very close racing, super exciting, Richard.
Yeah, very exciting. It looks like it's all on the right-hand side of the track looking down. We're just over by Brunel down here at the moment. It looks a little bit lighter for pressure, so it'll be very interesting to see how these boats, once they jibe over and come together at the bottom mark, it's going to be super tight. Vestas seem to be coming in with a little puff here as well, so might close these gaps up. Looks very good.
And crucial, Richard, for the results, because it looks like points are going to be extremely close coming into The Hague, and the tiebreaker will be decided on these import race series. While Mapfre have got a lead, they don't look like they're defending it particularly well in this race.
No, it's amazing. I mean, when we first were looking at the point scoring system for the race, a lot of the crews were thinking, oh, the import races aren't that important, but in the previous race and this race, it's going to be absolutely crucial to the outcome of the race. So a lot of effort to go into a potential massive outcome for these boats out here today.
Yeah, and then the last edition of the race, Vestas 11th Hour Racing actually lost at least 1 place on the overall standings, if not 2, if my mind serves me correctly, and that was all on countback. I think they went from 3rd to 5th on countback due to the results of the import racing. So keep your eyes peeled here on board with Team Brunel, and that is Peter Burling, gold and silver medal winner and winner of the America's Cup, a resurgent team. No crew changes for them today, and we've got crew changes on board. Turn the Tide on Plastic, where Francesca Klapčić is in and Elodie Matreau is standing down for this one. Matt Frey, no crew changes. No crew changes on Team Brunel, who we're seeing right now, who don't look like that that side of the racecourse that they've gone to has really favoured them. They're just getting sucked into Vestas 11th hour racing now, which is exactly what Ian Walker was talking about. When other boats are nearby, they get dirty wind, and we can see from the tracker here that the side that the gaggle of 5 boats have gone down looks like it's had better pressure. No crew changes aboard Vestas 11th hour racing. Team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Pete Cumming is out. Jack McCartney is in. And we've got quite a few changes, though, on Dongfeng race team, which is of interest. Justine Matreau is in, Fabienne Delahaye is in, and Black is in as well. Out is Chen Jinghao, or Horace Stubanatan, and Marie Ryu. They're standing down for these ones. Normal crew rotation for Dongfeng. One of the interesting things is, though, that Fabienne is a very famous Figaro sailor and a navigator in his own right. I think that's an interesting tactical move for them. As Ian Walker was talking in our pundit show earlier, the sort of coastal nature of the course may mean that you need a couple of navigators, because the navigator can't stay up 24 hours a day, Sally.
Yeah, I mean, these next 2 legs, for sure, there's not going to be much sleep had on board, and the more people you have really focusing on that navigation and making sure that each tactical move as well is correct against the fleet will be a big bonus.
On board, Axo Nobel currently leading. Second, Dongfeng race team. Then Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Turn the Tide on Plastic in 4th. In 5th, Matt Frey. Team Brunel now down to 6th, and it's 7th. It's Vestas 11th hour racing. Let's keep our eyes on this as we come down towards the leeward marks. Axo Nobel are doing a great job. They've really taken it here, and they are doing extremely nicely. The last few results of their import have been very good. They've had a 3rd, a 2nd, a 2nd. Not so good in Newport, but they've been moving up the leaderboard and showing their skills. They really got their act together. They, of course, grabbed that amazing new race record, nudged past 600 miles in 24 hours for the 24-hour race record. Sponsored by Inmarsat, so that was good. They got a very nice trophy, Sally. Quite
an amazing thing. You know, that day, all of a sudden, you get over 600 miles a day, and you know, something beat the 70s. The conditions were amazing, but you know, we're on these same boats for the last two races, and people are really, these teams are really, you know, sailing the boats at a more efficient level than they were for sure last time around, and we're seeing that on the numbers. Yeah, it was quite a headline grabber for sure. And we'll just go quickly up to Ian Walker. Tell us what you see. That left-hand side of the course looks like it's come good.
Yeah, very nice leg from Axo. They've stretched their legs. Dongfeng as well, also fast. Matt Frey sailed a low mode, lost a little bit of distance, but got inside Scallywag and turned the Tide on Plastic. And looking at it, as you rightly say, the side where the 5 boats went have had an advantage. Just makes me wonder whether there isn't a current advantage on that side. Quite a big difference. Vestas were going fast, nearly got over the top of Brunel. But now as we come in, Brunel should be able to soak down to the mark.
A furl on board, Axo Nobel rolling up their A3 Spinnaker. On board with them for the rounding.
Driving in 2, 1, driving here.
Nikolai Sersted driving. Leading around the first leeward mark. A great upwind leg, stretching on the downwind. Team Axo Nobel. In second, making the best of the puffs on the left-hand side of the downwind. Dongfeng race team.
Keel center.
Great audio from off the boats. And a tight battle coming down towards this leeward mark gate. You can choose either the left-hand or the right-hand mark. Matt Frey have gone back up. Oh, looked like some odd stuff going on there on board Matt Frey. Maybe they did a last-minute change of decision. Matt Frey have taken their A3 down too soon. Team Brunel squeeze in front of Matt Frey. And a slight boat handling error perhaps on Matt Frey. Looked quite odd. Looked like they were going for the right-hand mark. Then they went for the left-hand mark, and they let Brunel get ahead of them, Sally.
Yeah, it sure looked like a last-minute change of decisions, but I think maybe because if they were going to turn the other mark, they'd have still quite a lot of dirt to get through. maybe they thought they get some clear air faster over here.
Yeah, so a last-minute tactical change because there were lots of other boats coming downwind, and they decided that the dirty air from the spinnakers perhaps was going to be bad for them. And, not the best leeward mark round in there. Vestas 11th Hour Racing now back in the hunt, only a few boat lengths behind Matt Frey and Team Brunel. Sun Hun Kai scallywag and turn the tide on plastic. Let's go on board with David Witt. Change of course, that'll be. C flag is up, and there you go, C flag just on the left-hand side of screen. And that means there's a change of windward mark. We're going to get exactly what that is. New windward mark gate bearing of 065, so 1.2 miles. The breeze has gone 5 degrees to the left. Sally, explain that.
That's right. So the original course was set at 070, which would be just to the right of where they put the new mark. So 065, they made it a 5-degree course change, which isn't that big of a deal, but I think maybe that's what we're seeing on the left-hand side there.
Okay, we've got great pictures from the helicopter, and up in the helicopter, current trophy holder of the Volvo Ocean Race, Ian Walker. Looks like it's getting a bit light and some foggy or rainy on the left-hand side. What's going on?
Yeah, it looks light, hard left, but I think that's beyond the ley line. What's going through my mind right now is thinking about the depth and the current differences across the course. There's a channel marker to about 2/3 of the way up the beat, and I'm wondering if perhaps there's a different depth of water one side to the other. It's interesting also to see the fact that the boats are not always taking their code zeros down. They're leaving them up an awful long time, which is really quite slow in these conditions. Like I'm looking down on Vestas now, look like they've decided to take theirs down. Scallywagger right underneath us, heading us out to the right-hand side. They had a really poor first run, didn't sail low enough, and ended up on the outside to the right. But everybody seems to be agreeing now to head to the left, although you just wonder if on that first beat it wasn't more about the line bias than the left paying over the right.
Yeah, very good and well pointed out off the start line. That little bit of left-hand line bias gave the boats that were down that end the early advantage, and Axo Nobel have not relinquished that. They're top of screen, currently leading. Brunel in the middle of the racecourse. Dongfeng race team at the moment in second. Well, here we go. Sun Hun Kai scallywag on the right-hand side. They're going for something a little different. They're going to go and shake it up a little. Let's go down on the water for Nick Bice and Richard Mason.
Yeah, we're just sitting behind Axo Nobel and Team Dongfeng here in the left, and they're certainly still looking well powered up, but it's quite patchy across the course. And I'm just looking over my shoulder and seeing Scallywag. Well, we must be getting into some lighter air to the right. They're starting to have another dig back towards the middle of the course.
Okay, and Richard Mason, from your eye, do you think the left is still working out, and why is it? Tide, wind, what is the story?
Well, it still looks like there's a little bit darker water over here, so a little more pressure, I think, and maybe a little bit of shift. We're just seeing Axo Nobel tack on the edge of a little puff here. I think that we have a little bit of tide issues as well, because where we are right now is about 10 metres of water, and at low tide, this is dry land. So it's about 1 metre per hour of tide here, the second most tide in the world. So it's definitely a factor out here.
Okay, definitely a factor. And any issue, Richard, for the navigators, for the boats going aground, if the water disappears that quickly?
Only if the race goes on too long. So at the moment we're headed towards the top of the tide, and there's a couple of metres underneath the keels, so they're all clear. But you have to be pretty snappy about getting the race finished up and the boats back in afterwards.
Okay, nice pictures from the helicopter there of Peter Burling driving, keeping his eyes on. Unusually wearing his boots today, Sally.
That's right. Normally we see the bare feet on Pete.
A little chillier today.
And no jacket. Well, he must be.
They breed them tough there in Kiwi land, right? Okay, Axo Nobel now crossing ahead of Team Brunel. That's a decent lead there for 117 metres or so. But well enough to get back into this race, and It's a good question. Where's the mark? Let's go up to Ian Walker. Dongfeng race team attacking back out of the left-hand side. What do you see there?
Well, I've seen Brunel. They've had a nice lift across here. I think they've closed the distance down to Axel Nobel. They're going to be behind Dongfeng, but they've maybe closed it up a little bit. I'm seeing Turn the Tide on Plastic have still got their Code 0 or A3, whichever downwind sail they were using in the air, and that's really, really slowing them down upwind. I'm not sure if they've got a problem or they've chosen to leave it up. It's interesting also how committed Dongfeng are to the left-hand side, and I know that they're getting navigational advice from Marcel Van Tries, one of the people I most respect in the world, and I can't help but think that they know something about this left-hand side, and it's a pre-planned move, certainly to start down there and wing out to the left-hand side. But there's the cross right now, and Brunel, as I say, they have chipped back into them. Looks like they're about 3 boat lengths behind, Andy.
Okay, Ian, and you were talking about Marcel Van Triest. Just expand a bit more on the role of these sort of onshore navigators or routers. You used Marcel, I think, when you won in the last edition, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, and I've done a lot of sailing with Marcel. He sailed the race himself 5 or 6 times, and you know, his job is to do a lot of the work for the navigator, to work out the currents, to work out the weather forecast, particularly in the days building up to the offshore legs, because you know, the navigators, they can't do it all. There's too much to do with other commitments, including media, including your own family, and of course they want to do some of their own work. So you basically bring on an expert such as Marcel, and he will basically create a playbook, map out the entire leg for you, or in the case of an import race, he'll certainly have a strong opinion about which side's going to be tidally favoured and what the wind might do. So it's a difficult role to fulfil. There's only a few people in the world who are good enough to be able to advise these navigators, who themselves are some of the very best in the world. And if you've got to pick someone on your side, I'd pick Marcel.
There you go. Well, there are a bunch of them around and doing it. One of them for Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Anderson Reggio. And we'll update you on some of the other onshore navigators and experts that they use. Down on the water, I can see that Team Brunel have tacked hard on top of Matt Frey. Looks like some tactical shenanigans going on in this import race to try and keep Matt Frey towards the back of the fleet. Nick Bice.
Yeah, it's no holds barred here, and I'm sure any opportunity, if you can annoy any of the other crews, you'll definitely be doing that. But I'll tell you what, one thing is definitely noticeable is Pete Burling's stance when he steers one of these boats. I've never seen anything like it. He's bent over like the Sydney Harbour Opera House.
Like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Well, if it gives him a good angle, who are we to suggest? Because he's got a gold and silver medal, and he's won the America's Cup, and he has had a very important part in the resurgence of Team Brunel with his sort of expertise. Richard Mason, what have you got to say about Pete Burling and his involvement in Team Brunel?
He's definitely got that X factor, that little bit of drive. And there's 2 of these guys out here that might actually take out a first in the world, and that's to get a gold at the Olympics, win the America's Cup, and win the Volvo Ocean Race. It's the triple crown of the sailing world, and we got one on Maffrey and one on Brunel. They're 2 very talented Kiwis.
Right, shaping up for a beauty, because there aren't many records left in world sport, and this is one that is quite remarkable. And Peter Burling, they're having a very good stab at it, as they've won 2 of the last 3 legs and came second in one of them. Actually, rather unfortunately, you know, they could have won all 3 of the last 3 legs. They got a 10-point jump on Dongfeng, and they got a 17-point jump on Matt Frey. It was incredible. It's been an incredible 3 legs. I wish I'd been buying stock in Brunel in Auckland, because right now they have been going up and up in the markets. Team Axo Nobel on board with them right now as they tack onto starboard. Nikolai Serstedt. And they get ahead of Dongfeng. Are they on ley line? Sally?
Yeah, he said we're going to get to the ley line no problem, which is quite nice. It's a nice feeling. They can sail the boat in a normal mode. I heard max keel, so they're getting close to, you know, kind of being fully powered up out there.
Yeah, they're on ley line, no problem. Ian Walker, can Dongfeng make something of this at the top gate?
Well, we're in absolutely brilliant slot to see it. I don't think they are. I think it's too high a risk. I think we'll see them probably tacking in behind, although I know Charles, he likes to go for everything out there. A really bit of a mistake by AXA Nobel. They came back a bit early on the ley line and gave Dongfeng the favoured left-hand side. Our helicopter pilot was hovering over the channel mark. They're definitely pushing the current, and that is favouring the left-hand side where it's shallower.
Okay, great info. Around the second windward mark, Team AXA Nobel with a slender lead over second place Dongfeng race team, who tack right behind them as they head off downwind. In third place, keeping up the pressure, it's Team Brunel. Just got to wait to get the bow down there, Sally, to furl out the A3.
Yeah, so that's the difference. 2 boat lengths attack set versus just a bear away set, and AXA Nobel should be able to gain another little boat length as they settle into this downwind.
Dongfeng race team really keeping the pressure on AXA Nobel. They're certainly not letting them run away with it. Team Brunel coming around the top mark as well. We've got Nick and Richard. Give us the latest.
Yeah, nothing to I didn't mind the look of Dongfeng in that last half of that beat, and they got a lot closer to AXA Nobel than they were at the bottom, so they did very well. And as you said, Brunel just kept the pressure on and maintaining that third position, which is fantastic. But someone who's really dropped off the back has Turned the Tide on Plastics, who I was unsure what happened to them, but they're now quite a long way behind SHK Scallywag, who are in 6th position.
Okay, Joan Vila there just almost getting his hand in the main sheet block there. That would have been painful as they go for a tack set. A tough manoeuvre, these tack sets. Vestas 11th Hour Racing coming in behind Matt Frey. Richard Mason, just talk us through this tack set and what goes on board the boat.
Well, there's plenty going on because you're coming into the top mark, and not only have you got one manoeuvre, which is attack, which you normally do on the wind, you've got to be setting up to immediately round the mark and then furl out the A3 for the downwind run. But something I must say, it's really impressive. I've been watching this from a distance, and since Auckland, the way these guys' crew work is going on out here is just phenomenal. They're all getting around the top mark here, and within a boat length and a half, the sails are out and set for the next leg. It's pretty impressive. Any other boat would have to have 16, 17 people on board to do the same thing. So you can see that they've sailed around the world. There's not a lot of talking going on, very calm. It's lovely to watch, some beautiful sailing going on out here. Very few mistakes.
Yeah, 40,000 miles of practice will get them into, well, it sort of becomes second nature, I think, Richard. Okay, Sung Hun Kai Scallywag around the top as they unfurl their A3 there as well. Onboard reporter there. David Witt goes from one wheel to the other, so he's got a nice view. And Amika Bess at the back, and there's Libby Greenhouse, the navigator. So they, again, Sung Hun Kai Scallywag going for a bit of a change of scenery. They don't like that left-hand side quite so much, and so they're going opposite side to the rest of the boats. We'll go up to the helicopter, Ian Walker, for your latest perspective at the front of the fleet. It's still pretty tight.
Yeah, it is, and it looks like the front 5 are kind of all sort of happy where they are. I think AXO are happy with first, obviously. I think Dongfeng, they're going to be reasonably happy with second, and Matt Frey behind them. So it's like nobody wants to really make a play. Already we got Dongfeng, Brunel and Matt Frey all almost side by side. You just wonder if that isn't what we're going to see over the next week on the way to Gothenburg. But I'm slightly surprised nobody other than Scallywag is having a little punt and jibing out. You'd think if the current was favourable on the left upwind, it would be the opposite downwind. But as I say, maybe they're all just trying to hold their own, sort of happy with where they are right now.
Yeah, do you think Matt Frey going to be okay with the 4th? I guess that only gives them 2 spots up to Dongfeng.
Yeah, I think, was it an 8-point lead they've got in the Import Race Series?
6 points. Oh, sorry. Yes,
6 points, was it?
No, 8-point lead, you're right. And the updated scores are a 6-point lead if it finishes like this.
Yeah, so I think, rather than risk throwing it away with a big play, they're probably thinking, well, it's a big step to catch Brunel or a big step to catch Dongfeng, maybe just trying to grind them down. As I'm watching it here, they're doing this low mode again, and if you could sail lower on starboard tack, then you've got the chance to jibe on top of the other boats. And we're seeing the jibe on Dongfeng. This is crucial. A good jibe by Dongfeng could see them get over the top of AXO.
Yeah, we're watching great pictures of that right now. It's outside jibing on Axo Nobel, and Dongfeng race team have done a better job of this jibe as the umpire boat keeps really close. Now we've got a match race battle right here, and Team Brunel jibe on top of them as well. It's gone a little bit light on that left-hand side of the racecourse, and Axo Nobel now luffing. They're making it very difficult for Dongfeng to roll over the top of them, so they're going a little bit higher than they would normally go. Sally, what are the rules?
That's right. They just want to keep their bow clear so that they have a little bit of clear air coming in through kind of on their nose there, and they just did that. They had to make maybe a tighter turn on the jibe to do that, as Dongfeng had a great position, but now they should be able to match angle all the way down to the gates. And
just tell us who has to keep clear in this situation.
So this is a windward boat keep clear situation. Dongfeng has to keep clear of whatever course that Axo Nobel sails. It's their proper course, so if they want to come up for clear air, they're allowed to.
Okay, so that is because the windward boat, the boat closer to the wind, is the one that has to keep clear. That's one of the oldest rules in sailing. The crew of Dongfeng on the front of the boat right now. It's showing, that's suggesting that it might be a little bit lighter. Plenty of spectator boats buzzing around the fleet here in Cardiff. It's been a brilliant stopover. Axo Nobel holding on to a 2 or 3 boat length lead, but Dongfeng, Charles Caudrelier, not letting them have it all their own way, that's for sure. Matt Frey still got a chance of getting into Team Brunel right now. Let's go down onto the water with Nick and Richard, and the battle between Matt Frey and Team Brunel, and also the battle ahead between Axo Nobel and Dongfeng. Talk to us.
Yeah, it's a classic synchro jibe situation there, and Dongfeng had a little better jibe and came out better. And just seeing now, Dongfeng is starting to climb a little bit over the top. I'm not sure if they'll get there, but Charles Cordelia and his team, they've definitely got their foot down. So it's going to be a very interesting bottom mark rounding here.
And then to Richard Mason, the battle between Brunel and Matt Frey. We're seeing them on screen right now. Looks kind of close. Brunel a little bit ahead, but not by much.
No, not by much at all. Actually, we're right in the mix here. It's perfect. So we're seeing Matt Frey bring a little bit of pressure down. So they're sailing a slightly lower course. So as Axo Nobel and Dongfeng are engaging one another, Matt Frey sort of soaking down and sailing their own game there. So everything is going to close up at this bottom mark. It's going to be very, very close next beat.
Well, all our experts agree that Matt Frey have this slightly lower mode when they're on the import race going downwind, and that's helped them get right back into this race. And if they can pick off Team Brunel, they'll be very happy about that, because it's all about these import scores against Dongfeng race team. Team Brunel, I don't think, are going to be in the hunt for the tiebreaker situation, but you never know. It may become crucial between Axo Nobel and Team Brunel when we get into the finish on The Hague. We've seen it before. We saw it in the last edition. Okay, eyes on the 2 leaders now. Dongfeng look like they've got a little bit of a puff right now, coming down in towards Axo Nobel. Nikolai Sersted, extremely good helmsman, a match racer of some note. Sally, you've raced against him and seen him race a bit.
Yeah, I raced against him, in the past when the match racing was in the mono hulls, and then more recently in the multi hulls. And he's obviously picked up a lot of match racing skills, but he can also crucially steer a boat in these tricky conditions. And whether you're a match racer or not, that's what it takes. If you can steer a boat fast against another boat and pick the perfect angles, that's how you can stay ahead in these close quarters.
Jib up in 30 seconds.
Jib up in 30 seconds. That's Jack Boutel right there on the bow. This is his second Volvo Ocean Race. He was also on Dongfeng for the 2014-15 edition. Ian, you've got the best view in the house. Tell us what we're going to see next between these 2 boats at the front of the fleet.
Just trying to line it up. I guess Axo Nobel will probably jibe and go right mark in order to go left up the next leg. Dongfeng will be quite tempted here to go around the left mark and then maybe quickly tack onto starboard above Axo Nobel to head in the same direction out of the current. Matt Frey have done a really nice game here of sailing low. They're clearly ahead of Brunel to the gate, although it may be that they can't get down to the right-hand mark. They might have to follow around the left-hand mark. That's the yellow one. That's left looking downwind. I don't think they're going to be able to jibe and cross Brunel, but we've seen Brunel have struggled for speed down here, and they struggled on the first run relative to Vesta, so a little bit of a weakness maybe at downwind in these conditions.
a tight tactical battle between these two teams as Axo Nobel lead around this leeward mark. Very close ahead of Dongfeng Race Team, who are in second. Not the greatest furl there, Sally. Is that furl all right on Dongfeng?
I think they're gonna, yeah, might have just a little hiccup in it, but they should be able to drop it quite soon here in this light air.
Look at that. Dongfeng Race Team actually have gone round the mark a little earlier than Axo Nobel, but Ian Walker is calling for the left-hand side as being the better side. A bit of tidal advantage, maybe a little bit of breeze. You still like where Axo Nobel are going right now, Ian?
Yeah, I think they'll be happy. They've got what they want. Dongfeng will also be happy because Mapfre are following them round. So the question is, do they lead now with the tack onto starboard to go left, which I think they're about to do. That will help them drop the spinnaker as well. It's interesting to see how Scallywag have come back into it. I talked about the fact that it would be worth the punt and going the other way for the current downwind. It looks like they've sort of almost got into the back of Vestas on this run. So looks like everybody's going to set up for a long starboard tack out to the left-hand side.
Okay, Axo Nobel leading just over Dongfeng Race Team. Well, mate, the Delta, the Amiga timing clock there, as we watch Vestas 11th Hour Racing having a little issue with their furl up. There it comes. And you don't want to let too much of that sheet out, Sally, right?
You don't want to let too much of the sheet out, but so you basically control the sheet as you go for the furl, but you need all hands on the furl as well. So when you're talking about sailing these boats with, you know, short-handed, it becomes quite difficult thing to hold on to that sheet and get all the power in the furl.
Well, it is an interesting tidal situation. I'm getting word from the race committee boat that they've actually just turned on the tide. So there is quite a lot of change in and out with the tide, and that's maybe where that left-hand side is coming good, but it may be changing towards that right-hand side a little bit more of an advantage as we now just scan over the fleet. Di Kafari on her turn the tide on plastic in 7th there. Clearly had an issue. We'll talk to her about that after the race, I'm sure, when the boats dock in on board with Mapfre. Sosi Zizek and Willie Altadil right there, giving it loads on the handles.
Okay, Jim.
Look at that, Xavi Fernandez, he's trimming there to leeward, Sally.
He is, yeah. And normally, this is interesting, I think normally we see Sophie on the aft pedestal, where they changed up their power and where they're putting the power in the for the maneuvers.
Okay, looking down the sail plan of Mapfre, their north sails. You've called these this team to win overall, Sally, in our pundit chat yesterday. Why do you feel that?
You know, I just think they have a lot of depth in their team. They have a really strong leader. They've been focused on one goal. I mean, most of the teams have from the start of this race, the start of their campaign. Yeah, they had some hiccups in the last couple legs, but I feel like when you get down to the end of these races, you have to rely on what you built from the beginning. And they have a really strong team, and I think they really can consistently sail this boat very fast. I just think that they're going to push through in the end.
Okay, well, Sally's got a little bit of a nudge for Mapfre, and Ian Walker said he was going to go for Dongfeng. For all of those of you watching on Facebook, on Twitter, let us know who you're cheering for, who you think is going to win. We've got lots of friends at the Facebook Yacht Club who are all very active on Facebook. Give us your comments and questions and tell us where you're watching from. It's great to have you all out here as we look at Di Kafari. Looks like she's turned the helm over to Bledin Mon right there. Is that Bledin? It's now driving. We don't know when she made that turn. Right?
I think that was, you know, that he had to go at the practice race the other day, and I think they trying to switch it up a little bit for the last bit of this, the last couple of the imports in this whole race.
Yep. Coming down towards the bottom mark. They've furled up their A3 and they're just going to do this leeward mark rounding now. And Axo Nobel and Dongfeng Race Team look very close. So they're just jibing around this mark as Bledin goes from one side to the other. Oh, the Welshman driving. Good old Bledin. You couldn't be any other nationality with a name like Bledin Mon. apart from being Welsh, great to have him driving in this Cardiff stopover for the Sky Ocean Rescue import race. And Sky Ocean Rescue set up in January 2017, but a real mission for Sky, the company, to change from the inside, get rid of plastic, pass on plastic. They've got totally plastic-free cafeteria, they've got reusable water bottles, drinks cups, and they are trying to ensure that anything that they put out doesn't come with any plastic packaging. They're leading from the company, and they're also using their position as a global media company to use their ambassadors and their sports that they cover, English Premier League, the cricket, all sorts, as well as here at the Volvo Ocean Race, to publicise their mission to save the ocean and turn the tide on plastic. So thanks very much to Sky Ocean Rescue for a commitment and their leadership at some of these ocean summits. They've done really good work, and it's great to have somebody with such media muscle shouting about the ocean health and how we can change it. And it changes with everybody just doing their individual little bit. And if they all do that, it will make a big, big difference. Okay, at the front of the fleet, Team Akzo Nobel and Dongfeng Race Team. On the tracker, we've got a little bit of Dongfeng Race Team looking good in the middle of the racecourse. Let's go up to the helicopter to Ian Walker. Have Dongfeng made a bit of a gain here?
Yeah, they look very nice. They look like they've been beautifully trimmed across here. Boom's a bit higher than on Mapfre. This whole race is probably going to come down to the next 60 seconds when they cross tacks with Akzo Nobel. I'm not right close to it, but I tell you what I can see, just to the left of Akzo Nobel is a huge tide line now. There's a huge difference in current, which is creeping off the shore towards the racetrack. So things are changing, and we've heard about the size of the tide. But here's the cross, Andy. I'm sure you want to talk us through it.
Yeah, well, it looks like Akzo Nobel have maybe got into that weaker current, that poor current, and they are now going to have to duck underneath Dongfeng Race Team. So a change in the leaderboard up the final beat, and this is very unusual. Dongfeng Race Team don't want to let them duck, so they are going to tack in what's called a sort of safe lee bow position, Sally. Wow, look at that. The Chinese team sailing very nicely, got a decent shift, and now it is all on for the win between Dongfeng Race Team and Akzo Nobel in this Sky Ocean Rescue import race here in Cardiff. Sally.
Yeah, tricky maneuver there from Dongfeng. We call that kind of the layup, you know, when you tack underneath somebody on port, when you can make them duck you. But it's obviously a long tack now to port, and if they're laying these gates, it's for sure the right maneuver for Dongfeng to control this race course.
Just on board with them, Pascal Badegri, their navigator, and they're going to try and put the squeeze on Akzo Nobel as they go on the long lay line towards the top mark now. And Akzo Nobel may have just slid this may be just sliding away from them down on the water. Nick Bice, what say you two?
Sorry, you just caught me out. I was putting my money on Brunel based on Sally being on Mapfre and Ian on Dongfeng. So just to keep things interesting. So Dongfeng had just put the bow down to get a bit of speed now, and they'll start edging up underneath Akzo Nobel to try to push them off. And they look as though they're on the lay line, so if they can do things as they are planning, I think they'll have a few boat lengths around this top mark.
Okay, Ian Walker in the helicopter. The two leaders, Dongfeng and Akzo Nobel, look very close. What do you see?
Yeah, they're right beside us. Dongfeng, they were a little conservative on their tack, Andy. I think Charles is probably a little bit nervous of giving away a penalty. He could have done with going another quarter of a boat length, but for sure, they're going to come around Akzo Nobel. He's played it safe. They still got probably 2 minutes to the mark, and then for the whole of that period, Akzo Nobel are going to be hurting in the dirty wind that's bouncing back off of Dongfeng's sails. So I think we could expect to see Dongfeng leading around this mark. Now the question for Akzo Nobel is, do you stay there and do you eat that dirty wind, or do you maybe do a quick tack and then give the same punishment to Mapfre and make sure of your second place? I think with the distance to go, they'll probably just stay, but it's going to be painful for them.
Yeah, just tell us, sir, you've sailed these boats in, you've been in this position, someone pinching you off, and how does it feel when you're the helmsman, when you're taking that sort of pain?
Well, it's horrible, and as soon as the boat speed goes, you start to lose the lift off the foils, the boat goes sideways, and as you're seeing, they're dying a fast death now. And if they're not careful, Mapfre will be right on their hammer when they get to the mark. They'll always have starboard advantage at the mark.
Yeah, Nikolai Sersted already looking back over his shoulder at Mapfre. And on Mapfre in clear air right there, Ian?
Yeah, Mapfre are in clear air, and generally speaking, it pays to, if you're going to do something, do it straight away. And as soon as they thought Dongfeng were coming around the front, I think if it was me, I would have just bitten the bullet, tacked onto starboard, and given the same punishment to Mapfre, and that would have made second place safe. But they're going to go around second, but they're going to be under an awful lot of pressure from Mapfre's low mode on the next leg.
Well, that sounds like life lessons for Ian Walker. Once you made a decision, do it quickly. And Sally, you've been in this position before, but maybe a little opportunity for Team Brunel here as well.
Yeah, I mean, not quite a split, but obviously they're taking advantage of being out here on their own in this clear air. They do have one more tack in, and you know, if they can actually get back engaged with Mapfre, then they maybe can, you know, hang on the downwind. But I don't know. I mean, I think we've seen such gains over there on the left. The leaders have gone left, and I think it'd be tough for them to cross over.
Yeah, okay, well, we're just at the windward marks right now, the final windward mark. Dongfeng leading, who've just squeaked ahead of Team Axo Nobel, and now the Dutch team have got it all on, because it looks like Mapfre, as Ian said, are in clear air. This is going to be really difficult tactical call, whether you just squeeze it up and slow down, but Dongfeng kept making it difficult for them and really wanted Axo Nobel to go down the fleet. I wonder if Dongfeng actually gave Axo Nobel too much there, because they don't really want Mapfre to get ahead of Axo Nobel. They want all the points in between them as possible.
Okay, good pressure now.
Around the top mark after some beautiful sailing on the final upwind leg, Dongfeng race team take the lead in the Sky Ocean Rescue import race here in Cardiff. Great sailing from the Chinese team. Hoisting the A3 at the final windward mark, Mapfre have squeezed their way into second place. A great comeback.
Wait, okay, I'm ready.
Tamara Echegoyen moving around that boat like a scalded cat right there. Difficult maneuver here, Sally.
Yeah, once again, that was another tack set, and what you saw them doing was dropping the jib actually before they unfurled, and that can also be a very tricky maneuver, because if you drop the jib onto the sheets of the A3, you won't be able to unfurl the A3. So that might have been why we saw a few people scurrying around there to make sure the sheets were super clear so they can drop the jib and unfurl at the same time.
Lovely pictures from the drone there as Mapfre sailed past in second, Axo Nobel in third, Team Brunel in a close fourth. Then it's Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Sun Hunkai Skellywag, and Turn the Tide on Plastic. Abiela there on Team Brunel. Between Brunel, Dongfeng Race Team and Mapfre, three crucial and very important female sailors. One of them is going to hoist the Volvo Ocean Race trophy. Sally, speak to those three.
Yeah, what an amazing time for women in our sport. You know, we've had a chance to, because of a fortunate rule in this race, we've had a chance to be a part of these teams and race with these already experienced professional, you know, guys. And now one of them is going to be able to say that they've won this race, and whichever one it is, we're all going to be, you know, super supportive and proud of them. And it's a super, you know, a really great achievement for them that they're going to hopefully take on to the future and see what else we can do in the sport.
And Abiela, boat captain on Team Brunel, she's done two, if not three.
This is her third.
Yep. She's quite a character.
Yeah,
tough.
She's quite a character.
Tough.
Super tough. Never lets down. You know, never lets anything go as far as if it's the right thing to do. She, yeah, I mean, she really pushes the boat, pushes the team. You know, runs a really tight ship, which makes a really big difference when you're going around the world.
Yeah, very good. Okay, just following the fleet with the drone, and now let's go up to the helicopter. Ian Walker, what are your thoughts right now? A great comeback from Dongfeng.
Yeah, Dongfeng has had a very nice race. Conservative start, great speed on the first beat. They haven't really put a foot wrong. Mapfre, they've made their gains downwind, and they've capitalised there. Dongfeng, actually, it's funny, you read my mind, Andy. I think strategically, they really shouldn't have hurt Axo Nobel as much as they did. They should have let them breathe. Axo Nobel would have gone round in second place, and that would have meant another point. Although Axo Nobel, for them, it's kind of all gone wrong. They let Mapfre through because of the dirty wind from Dongfeng, and then a very poor spinnaker hoist has meant that they're unable to put the pressure on Mapfre. But Mapfre and Dongfeng, very, very impressive with their boat speed, both up and downwind.
Yeah, okay, following them right now. I think we've got drone, these are drone pictures right now. We are just next to Mapfre as Dongfeng go for their outside jibe. And what an amazing turnaround. Down on the water, we've got Nick Bice. Just talk to us about Dongfeng, who crossed only by a few meters and are now probably 100 to 200 meters ahead of Mapfre, Nick Bice and Richard Mason.
Yeah, Dongfeng did beautifully. Well, they did beautifully during the last downwind leg, so we know they're fast downwind, and they've just stepped out again nicely here. And but let's not take anything away from Mapfre. Sure, they got a little lucky break with Axo being covered there, but they had a very, very good upwind, and I think they'll be happy to come away with a second based on some of the positioning that they were in earlier in the race.
Yeah, Richard Mason, what do you got to say about the scene in front of you? Final leg.
I was watching some... I think the thing that's blowing me away out here is the crew manoeuvres. They've been absolutely phenomenal. They're just these tack sets that they've been doing at the top marks. They're complicated manoeuvres, and everyone seems to be doing beautiful sailing. The jibes look fantastic. So, you know, it really is very few mistakes being made out on the racetrack here. It's all coming down to positioning the boats in the right place. And you know, you can see the difference between the top teams here and those that are lagging behind a little bit. Now, these guys get settled down and they're straight into their numbers. So they look, both Dongfeng and Mapfre look very comfortable here.
Yeah, pictures of Charles Caudrelier, his third Volvo Ocean Race. He won with Groupama in 2011-12, and he is the skipper of Dongfeng Race Team in 14-15. And nothing but a win in this edition of the Volvo Ocean Race will be acceptable. But look at this, Sally. Team Brunel, you've sailed with them, and they are looking to get a little nudge into Mapfre right here.
Yeah, it looks like they're sailing a really nice angle, maybe a bit more pressure coming in, and they have gained a few boat lengths for sure on Mapfre since the last rounding.
Okay, up in the helicopter. Ian, talk us through Brunel and Mapfre. Brunel have closed up, have they?
Yeah, we're right behind Brunel, and for sure they're on a charge, but I don't think they're going to be able to jibe onto Mapfre's wind. They'll be thinking, well, do we go past them or do we try and get on their air? But Mapfre are going to get clean across. They are, however, going to cross AXA Nobel. So things are going to get worse for AXA Nobel and Brunel. It looks like we're going to get the overall series leaders, first, second and third, potentially coming first, second and third in this race.
Yeah, 100 metres Team Brunel are behind Mapfre, but looks like Mapfre not on the ley line yet, Ian? Maybe they're on the ley line, yeah, for the finish, they're all right. Yeah.
I think they're above the ley line. I think they're going to have to jibe again. Brunel are probably just going to stick one in right in front of AXA Nobel.
Okay, well, this is the Sky Ocean Rescue Import Race Cardiff. Great to have a nice bit of breeze, 12 to 14 knots or so. A little shiftier than we actually expected at the beginning. We thought it would be fairly consistent at 060, but we've had tidal changes through the racecourse, which has allowed a little bit of up and down on the leaderboard. A great sailing from Dongfeng Race Team as we get down towards the finish. Remember, Sunday is when the boats leave, and it really is the start of the sprint. It's wonderful to see the three leading boats here, Dongfeng Race Team, Mapfre and Team Brunel, recreating the overall leaderboard. And the overall leaderboard is only 3 points in it between all three of these boats. I can tell you, folks, over the next 3.5 weeks, we are going to have an amazing sailing battle. It's gone from ocean racing to now coastal racing, really around Ireland, Great Britain, into Sweden, and then on to The Hague. I can tell you it's going to be some fantastic racing. Make sure you tune in on Sunday. It's going to be really good as we're on board with Dongfeng Race Team. Charles Caudrelier skipping, and those three people, those heads you can see at the back, they've got amazing view as guests on board for the import race. Pascal Badegri still talking about where the best breeze is. Great pictures of Dongfeng Race Team as they come down towards the Sky Ocean Rescue finishing line. The umpire boats just to leeward of them, making sure everything is legal, and don't think there are going to be any close incidents here, Sally.
No, it looks like quite a nice clean run right into the finish. 1, 2, 3.
And once Dongfeng had got ahead, wow, they managed to stretch their legs. Nick Bice and Richard Mason, final few comments from you.
Yeah, Dongfeng have just shown us again that when they do get ahead, they really can stretch, which is fantastic. And isn't it quite ironic just seeing these top three fill the podium once again? But a bit unfortunate for the two Welsh guys in the team, with the other one being Tristan Seal on Scallywag being at the back end of the fleet. But you never know, they might get their nose in front of Vestas.
Okay. Down towards the finishing line, the Sky Ocean Rescue finished for the import race. Dong Fong sailed beautifully, didn't put a foot wrong, and took their opportunities when presented to get ahead of Akzo Nobel and win the Sky Ocean Rescue import race in Cardiff. Well done them, they're very happy about that. Daryl Wislang there in the white hat. And behind them, having had a very clear tactical decision at the start to go to the right-hand side, they changed their minds after they saw the left was good. They came back into the fleet, taking boat by boat as they went around the 3-lap racecourse, and Matt Frey crossed the Sky Ocean Rescue finishing line for a well-deserved second place. And replicating the overall score leaderboard, coming down towards the finish with a very nice race, helmed by Peter Burling. In third place, it's Team Brunel. Sort of feel like everyone will be happy with this, certainly for the top three anyway. Look at that photo moment when you get your legend Peter Burling giving you the helm. Definitely want someone to take a photo. Well, here's the boat that won't be so happy, leading for 2.5 rounds of this Sky Ocean Rescue Import Race Cardiff. Team Akzo Nobel get down towards the finishing line for a 4th place finish. Breeze just easing a little bit here, Sally, as we got the last few boats coming in. Vestas 11th Hour Racing and Sun Hun Kai Scallywag look pretty close here, Sally.
Pretty close, and Vestas have one more jibe maybe to cross ahead of Scallywag. We'll see how they can actually pull off the jibe or make Scallywag jibe onto port, but we'll see. It's going to be close right there.
Vestas 11th Hour Racing squeezing down towards the finishing line for a 5th place in the Sky Ocean Rescue Import Race. Team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag had a nice last round, and they finish in 6th, just behind Vestas 11th Hour Racing. We'll go up to the helicopter for a little summary from Ian Walker. Go.
Well, the sun's now out. I've got a fantastic view of Cardiff City, and you know what we've just witnessed, I think, is the demonstration of the fact the boat that makes the least mistakes wins the race. Dong Fong made the fewest, Matt Frey made the next fewest, and so on and so forth. And if there is ever a sailing version of a royal flush, I think we've just witnessed it, because by my calculations, all 7 boats have just finished in their exact overall position on the leaderboard for the Volvo Ocean Race.
Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you for all of your insight, Ian. And, it's great to have him, the previous skipper of Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, who won the last edition of the Volvo Ocean Race. Thanks for all his insights, and we hope we're going to get some words from him on Sunday as well for the leg departure. On board there with Dongfeng race team as they just gather their thoughts, debrief the day's racing. And I think Charles Cordrellier will be very happy. Intensely competitive character. We asked him at the press conference about that, and he doesn't give a lot away, does he, Sally?
He doesn't. He likes to hold his cards close, but he's always, you know, if you listen to him, he's always little nudges here and there, motivating his team and keeping everybody on track.
A few little pearls of wisdom from Charles Cordrellier, who's extremely experienced both in the Volvo Ocean Race and in single-handed and offshore sailing in France, a real name to be reckoned with. As we just look at the virtual eye tracker now, as Turn the Tide on Plastic come down towards the finishing line. I'm sure I don't pronounce Bleden's name right, but he's never corrected me, so I'm going to say Bleden Morn, I think it is. I think there's a little stretch in his surname, but Bleden doing a great job there. Welsh sailing hero was with Ben Aisley Racing for the last America's Cup and is one of the real rising stars, both a super intellectual and an extremely good sailor. So he's very good for the performance element and a lot of the more detailed computer analysis stuff on board the boats, and I'm sure he'll be helping, and he's getting his feet wet helming the Turn the Tide on plastic boat. Here we go on board. There's Bleden right now. Dee Kafari, she's in the middle of the boat there on the handles. Who else have we got there? Is that Bianca Cook right there, Sally?
I think that's Liz Wardley, been on the main for this import race.
Yeah, boat captain. And they've been making a few changes. They've got a fully mixed team, 5 men and 5 women on board, and Dee Kafari's done an amazing job of leading what are a bunch of rookies to now being fully fledged ocean racers. As they come down towards the Sky Ocean Rescue finishing line in 7th place, it's Turn the Tide on plastic. Francesca Klapčić there at the back with Liz Wardley. Now they'll be winding up the A3, the bow team, putting away the spinnakers and the sails. And here we go with the pictures of, there's Daryl Wislang. You can always see, always distinctive with his white hat. Okay, well, I think down on the water we may get our moment with the winning skipper, Charles Caudrelier. Congratulations, and just give us a little summary of that race. It looked good. Yeah. I think there we go. We can actually see Charles just talking to Pascal there. Charles, can you hear us? This is Rate HQ. Charles and Pascal there doing some karate yachting there. We go up this way, they go that way, and we will just keep belling Charles Caudrelier. Charles, as soon as you can hear us. Bonjour, Charles. Okay, we'll come back to that, and let's go to the scores before we try and get back to Charles Caudrelier. And the Sky Ocean Rescue import race results here in Cardiff. In 7th, Turn the Tide on plastic. In 6th, Team Sung Hung Kai Scallywag. In 5th, Vestas 11th Hour Racing. In 4th, Team Axo Nobel. In 3rd, Team Brunel. In 2nd, Mapfre. And in 1st, Dongfeng Race Team. And as Ian said, the Royal Flush there is exactly the same in those standings as the overall standings for the race. Here's the overall import race series. Turn the Tide on plastic, Sung Hung Kai Scallywag, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Team Axo Nobel on 39, only 2 points behind Team Brunel. Dongfeng Race Team in 2nd on 49, 7 points behind Mapfre. So still an outside chance that they can close that gap for the tiebreaker. If the points are all even on the overall scores, the import race series will be used as a tiebreaker. Okay, I think we're going to go down on the water. We're ready with Charles Caudrelier. Charles, a great race. A great race. You've got to be happy with that. Okay, we're going to get Charles to put his headset on, and we're going to see if we can hear Charles Caudrelier. Bonjour, Charles. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Charles. A great race. You must have been happy with that. It wasn't all your own way, but talk us through it.
Yes, very happy. It's always a pleasure to win an inshore. And as you know, with the tight ranking, it's good to keep Brunel far away of us and try to come back on Mapfre. But Mapfre, again, managed to do a good comeback, and it's going to be difficult to gain 7 points on them. But who knows, on an inshore, you can very quickly finish last. The level is quite even. But yeah, we are very happy. It's one of our weaknesses compared to the offshore, and I think we are making good progress. And for all the team, it's very good for the dynamic, and very good to to do that before the next two legs.
Okay, and just talk us through how you got ahead of Axo Nobel in those crucial moments.
But we split on the leeward side. We were very close to him. We split on the leeward side and went to the right, a bit right of him. And I think we had a very good speed today, very good speed. And we just stuck leeward of them and put them in bad air. And then he lost a lot, too much, because Mapfre managed to pass him and also Brunel, but we had no choice. It was important to kill Axo and to keep it far away for the downwind.
Well, that was our final question from my race experts here in the commentary booth. Do you think that you could have given Axo Nobel a little more room to breathe, to put one boat in between you and Mapfre perhaps?
But I think we have not so much choice. As soon as it is our bad air, if we keep it too close, we are in danger downwind. I think they did a mistake not to accept to do two tacks and probably tack on the face of Mapfre, and they had time to do it, and they did a mistake. Us, we have no choice. If we want to be ahead of them, we had to put them in the bad air. So no, I don't think we could do anything.
Very
probably
good.
them did made the wrong choice, but it's always difficult to accept to tack two times. But probably that was a solution for them.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's what Ian Walker called from the helicopter. Charles, great to talk to you. Congratulations on your win in the Sky Ocean Rescue Import Race. Bien joué.
Okay, good. But if Jan Walker says that, it's probably true. Huh? hello to Jan.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Charles Caudrelier. Nice interview. We got into a few of the technical details of all that stuff. Well, let's get into some more technical details and have a look at the stats from the race. Now you can see distance sailed there. Actually, Dongfeng Race Team, Sally, sailed a little further than Mapfre, but the top three boats, they're all sailing less distance. Average speed, really, that's critical on the top right-hand side. Dongfeng Race Team, very fast, faster than Mapfre and Team Brunel. Tacks and jibes, they are right down at 11 tacks and jibes, and Team Brunel, look at that, 15 tacks and jibes. And the VMG, it's pretty even between Dongfeng Race Team and Team Brunel, but really it's a combination of distance sailed and tacks and jibes. Well, it's a combination of all of these. Average speed, though, good for Dongfeng Race Team, Sally.
That's right. I think the combination of that average speed and the less maneuvers, the less tacks and jibes is what keeps them, as Ian said, quite clean on the race course.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Sally. Well, Cardiff's been a wonderful stopover here, and sustainability really one of the key messages the Volvo Ocean Race takes all around the world. And today, World Oceans Day, an auspicious day in the life of the Volvo Ocean Race. We live and work and enjoy our sport on the ocean. And the Volvo Ocean Race goes to all of their stopovers and tries to make a change, and all of the stopovers do their part. Let's see what Cardiff has done to help with this mission.
Cling film and bubble wrap is one of the single-use plastics that we can't avoid. We have no control in most cases over what's being delivered to the site and how it's been wrapped in plastic, so we have to come up with a way of dealing with it. What we have to make sure is that this film plastic is recycled, so we have to do everything that we can to get it into the correct recycling bin, and also then make sure it goes somewhere where it can be dealt with properly.
This kind of plastic is so light, we get big winds down here, so obviously we don't want it getting blown into the bay or into the docks or into the sea. If we can keep it out of the environment and into a safe waste stream where it can be recycled, that is our ultimate goal. We are using a local company, BPI, who are taking it away for us and recycling it, and they make it then into plaswood products, which we've got on display here in the event village.
Obviously there's two types of waste. There's the contaminated waste, like you can see behind us, or this clean waste. So we decide upon receipt of the waste which process it needs to follow. If it needs to be washed, then it will enter our wash plant where it's shredded, it's washed, then it's dried, and pelletized, and then obviously we use the pellet into our product. Obviously if it's clean recycling, it will go straight into the pelletizing machine and cuts out a lot of the washing process. So obviously we were involved with the Welsh Government, doing a few recycling projects with them, and they talked to us about the project, and we thought it was a brilliant thing to get involved in, especially as the race is in Wales and we're a recycler in Wales, so we're really pleased about the opportunity to recycle the waste from the event. It's really important that we're involved in this new circular economy and getting involved with all the brand owners and retailers, and all of the plastic value chain is really important to us to make a change.
Well, a lovely day here for the Sky Ocean Rescue import race in Cardiff, and an exciting import race as well, with Dongfeng coming right back at Team Axo Nobel and then taking the win, with Matt Frey catching up close behind and Brunel just reflecting the overall leaderboard to take it in third place. We've got an exciting departure coming up on Sunday, and I'd just like to thank my co-commentator here in the booth, Sally Barkow, previous sailor on Team Brunel and on SCA. Our two commentators down on the water, Nick Bice and Richard Mason, and up in the helicopter, Ian Walker. Thanks all for watching. We'll see you on Sunday. Join us for more dramatic sporting action, where the battle gets down to the final thrilling moments, where dreams are broken and legends will be made. Tune in at 14:45 UTC on Sunday for the penultimate sprint, leg 10 from Cardiff, Wales to Gothenburg, Sweden.